share with the world. Where am I sharing it to? I don't know. There we go. Broadcast to the world. Oh, I'm gonna send this to my iPhone. I just got an iPhone, so AirDrop. Sure. What do I say? Open with pages, numbers, notes. Let's do notes.
Okay, so can I just tell you what I just did?
What did you just did,
I
dude?
learned that I did it wrong.
Did you start a new one?
So I started a new one. Yeah, I started a
Oh,
new
that's so
one. I
funny.
figured it out. So we're good now. That's all right. We're good. But that was like,
That's
oh, learn.
Well, I was trying to launch it and I was like, this isn't work. And I struggle technologically. So I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to let Roxanne figure this out and then just tell me what to do. Because I'm 100% positive that if I go in, I'm just going to be like bull in a china shop and she's like, please stop whatever you're doing.
No,
Just
you're good. And I heard my ding ding. I'm like,
stop.
that's Manissa, but I'm not going to respond because I got nothing for her yet.
You know
She's
what? I thought
just
to myself, she's ignoring me right now.
I didn't ignore you because I didn't actually look at it. So like I would have to
Oh,
have
fair.
looked at it to ignore you. But I knew
Fine.
it was
I
you.
love it. It's very fine. Well, so I have to tell everybody what happened before though. So Roxanne and I usually talk a little bit early. Hi, Lori. So good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Roxanne and I earlier today, so like 10 minutes ago, we got on. I said, call me after your coaching call, and then we'll connect and talk about what we're going to be doing on the call. And so I'm sitting here on my phone. I have a migraine. I'm just looking at my phone, literally looking at it, right? And then she messages me and says, I'm calling. I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting looking at my phone, ready. And she's like, yeah, it's been ringing for
3 minutes. Don't mind
I
me.
had my do not disturb on. I just got an iPhone, and so I'm still learning like all the pieces, and I put it on do not disturb. So I was basically like, "Call me," and then I was like, "I don't want to see you. I don't talk to
I'm
you."
like,
Go.
you're like, I'm here waiting. I'm like, yeah, I'm waiting for you to answer. So, so we'll just sit here ringing. I'm like,
Yeah,
wow,
it's fine. It's like we're like two ships passing in the night.
two shifts.
But
That's been us for a while. But can we just say, like, welcome to my dark side? And I'm so glad you're in Applelandia. I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome to the fam.
wait, who is in Applelandia?
You have an iPhone now. You're in Applelandia.
Oh, Applelandia! I didn't even know that was called. I was like
I just
Applelandia. I
made
was
it
like,
up.
where is this? I
I
was like,
just made
where
it
is?
up.
Oh my god! I was like Applelandia, dude. So here's fun fact. I've actually gone back and forth between the two. Like I mean, at 45 years old, you've probably gone back and forth a couple times. And
Nope,
it
I
just I'm
haven't.
at a stage. You haven't? Okay,
No.
so
Yeah.
basically it's just me then. I've gone back and forth. And what I found is that this time was probably the most seamless, and it's made me realize that truly in terms of functionality, they're like the Apple is a lot easier to use, and the Google Android phone, I will just say this. It's nice, it's fun, but oh my God, like every single Google phone I've had has had some sort of a glitch after 2 years to the point where I'm just like, I want to pick it up and throw it into the ocean. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I don't care. I'm just going to throw it away. So I'll be this probably in Applelandia for about 10 years or so until it does something to piss me off. And I'll be like, Roxanne, I hate Apple.
And yeah, I'm so excited. I had to clap. I literally had to do my little clapping thing because I'm just glad you're here. Welcome to the
You know
party.
why? It's because I can draw on it. All the stuff that I drew, like our cover photo that I drew for Rox Ness,
Mhm.
I drew that on Procreate. Like you can't do that on an Android. Like it's tapped into my creative self, and I want to reward Apple for giving me what I want. Thank you, Apple.
Apple says you're welcome. You have to understand,
Dude,
like
it is so good that you're back.
it's so good to be back. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see you. And so, y'all, we're gonna start a new season of the show. I'm just gonna call it that. Not
Sure.
yet, though. Like in August, right? In August,
Yeah, August.
when
Yeah,
you
August.
come back,
August.
brand new season. I'm very excited. It's like, get ready.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
um,
it's fun because we were trying to figure it out, and now I think we've figured out kind of like what we want to do. So by in August, we're gonna be like, all right, guys, we're ready.
we're ready. And that's like this is like the soft opening, and then we're like gonna do a full grand opening.
Yes, that will
You
be
like
super
that?
fun. We should
Okay,
have our
cool.
friends, like we should have our friends come and like we can bring them on, and then they can tell funny stories about us.
Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that.
Everybody wants to hear that. Everybody,
Nobody
I want to
wants
hear.
to hear.
Okay, so I gotta ask you something. I have
Yeah,
to ask
talk
you
to me.
something. So you've been
Talk to
gone
me, girl.
forever, and you left like at the key moment of my life here when the Bachelorette came back. Okay,
Yeah,
so the
yeah.
batch. I know it's a key moment of all
7-Eleven.
our lives. So, dude,
7-Eleven.
it's back, and we've got two now.
Oh
We've
yeah.
got two Bachelorettes.
Yes.
Did you watch
Yes.
it?
Of course I watched it. Come on, I
Oh,
have
dude,
priorities. I got back in town in time to watch it. I would have watched it out of town as well too. So we have Gabby and Rachel, which if we go back, although Gabby and Rachel prefer that we don't keep reminding them about what happened, they were two of the three finalists in Clayton's season of The Bachelor. Clayton slept with all three of them. No, I lied. Sorry. Now he has. He didn't then. He slept with the two of them. So it
Two of
was
them, yeah.
Rachel was first, then it was Gabby, if I remember correctly. And then he goes on the date with Susie, and she's like, at dinner, by the way, if you've slept with anyone else, I just couldn't move forward with you. He like yells at her. I'm still mad at him for that. He yells at her, he berates her. They fight, they break up. Then he goes to the rose ceremony and tells Rachel and Gabby, because he told them all he loved them, I'm in love with all three of you. And like
I remember that.
it was just a shit show is what it was. So you got them all crying and stuff. But what I loved about that was they're crying in their own spots because he's asking them to stay. And Gabby's like, I'm out of here. And he's asking them to stay. But what was really cool is that they found each other at one point and they were like, are you okay? And they were comforting each other. And
Oh,
I get like goosebumps just thinking about that because these are two women who are competing, right? For Clayton. And yet they were concerned about each other and how the other one felt. And that was like so powerful. I'm like, that is amazing. So I do think that for once, and they don't often do the right thing, but I do think for once the Bachelor franchise did the right thing by making them both the Bachelorette. Anyhow, he comes back to Susie. Susie, and she says no, turns him down. And then after the show's over, he and Susie are together, and they're still together. And they seem to be having a good time, and that's great. I'm happy for them. But I'm really happy for Rachel and Gabby. But I will tell you, watching it, I kind of feel like if you have two bachelorettes, you need to have double the men. They did not have double the men.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing. You gotta send up like so they usually start with 28 men or 30 like contestants,
20,
right? And
something
then like
around
they get
there.
rid of a whole bunch. So
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, like, they get rid of so many over the course of a season. Like, I think it just gives like them more of a chance because, like, you got to imagine that Gabby and oh god, what's the other one's name? I can't remember her name.
Rachel
Rachel.
Redford.
I remember Susie. I can never remember Rachel's name. The Gabby and Rachel, they have different taste. I feel like if you had too many people, like having been in a studio yourself, right? Like having that many people might have been a bit like it might have looked more like a choir. Oh God, there's a bug. Like sorry, the choir situation. Like, would you even have enough time to kind of like figure out who any of these guys are?
Fair. Well, and they keep saying they have the most men ever, which is kind of debatable because of course, Claire and Tayshia's season and how that switched and they added more guys.
Mm,
But I see your point. And to that point, in they say, and maybe in the beginning it wasn't an issue, but in the last like 10 years or 10 seasons of both, they don't actually have time to meet and talk to everyone
yeah,
that first night, which I don't even think it's a time thing. I think that production stops them from doing it because it's not even a night. It is literally daytime. The sun is fully up by the
right.
time they're done. Like
It's
it
like
is
a whole
daytime.
shoot. It's long.
Yeah. Rachel's hair went from curly to like flat, like to curly to flat again. So but they for whatever reason they don't have enough time. But this time what I enjoyed was they're like, "Oh, we don't wanna say goodbye to them yet." They started out by meeting them both together, which was weird. Then they started
Mm,
meeting them separately, doing one-on-ones separately. Um, and from what they showed, it looked like most people didn't meet both women that night. They met one or the other,
got it.
except for a few of them. But they're all, they're still doing that whole like, oh, are they gonna competing? Is there gonna be a guy who can't decide between the two? You
Two of
will
them, yeah.
know. Like to me, that's bullshit. Like this goes back to the Clayton nonsense. You'll know, like you know which one you want. But what they did do, Gabby and Rachel were like, we don't want to end this yet because we don't feel like we fully talked to everyone. And so they did this whole like, Jesse's like, well, but if there's anyone you really don't, you really aren't interested in, you shouldn't string them along. So there were three guys, which they'd shown us them meeting them. Two of them were twins, and one was a magician. And they
I saw the magician,
invited the
the
three.
clown
I
suit,
mean,
right? Was it the
are you, no,
was it
not
the
the clown suit, but are you really a magician? Like, I'm not sure if you're a magician if you just play with some cards. Like, I'm not
that,
convinced, but anyhow. So
prove
they
it, dude?
pull, yeah, like I needed to see more to know if he was truly a David Copperfield. But they were, it's the rose ceremony, and some guy's like, I didn't get to meet a chance to meet them. They're saying all this and they're all terrified. And they're like, and they listed off the three guys, the twins and the one and the magician. and they called them and they took him to the other room and they said, yeah, we're not feeling it. So they let those three go.
You know what's interesting, like, is that I remember, it seems like the way that you're describing it, it's a lot less like I feel like it was so much more dramatic back in like, because now they're like, and I feel like watching it now, we know so much about what kind of influence the producers have and the things that they do. So like it's
Mhm.
harder to like because like they may have ultimately ended up liking the twins or liking the magicians, but they're not really given that opportunity, and like so I feel like, they're I mean, you gotta rush
Mm,
the
you
situation.
do, but I will say, like, they have said the leads have said repeatedly, like, there's people that you just know immediately. They probably weren't
You just know
attracted to
exactly
him.
that you're just like, let's
They were
just get rid of
like,
them right away, totally.
"Yeah, how am I gonna take him home to mom and dad if he's pulling in quarters out of our ears?" Like, that just might have been a
Absolutely,
thing, you know?
totally. So here's though I want to ask you something because you mentioned earlier that they wanted to move on from Clayton, but I got to tell you, I don't, in full disclosure, I don't actually watch the show. I read the
Mhm.
synopsis. So I read the whole synopsis of everything that happens. So I know what happens. I just don't watch it happen live, right?
Hey,
So
Cindy.
as I, huh?
I was saying hi to Cindy. Keep going.
Oh, yeah. So I'm curious. I felt like the way it was described to me anyway is that they wanted to get away from Clayton, but at the same time, like everybody kept bringing up Clayton. Like everyone's like,
100%.
remember Clayton, remember Clayton, remember Clayton, remember Clayton. And it's like, but it wasn't clear to me from the synopsis whether they were also like, because you said they want to move on. And the way
Yeah.
that I read it, it sounded like the guys kept bringing him up. But how did you feel about them? Did they bring up Clayton on their own?
No, they have them in separate, like, interviews saying, "Oh my gosh, stop bringing up Kate. We're over this Clayton thing."
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's
I was
past. So they
over it.
were over it, and people were bringing it up, and they even had this choir of this quartet who sang a whole
Oh,
song about Clayton sucks.
God.
It was Clayton sucks, Clayton sucks, Clayton sucks, Clayton sucks, and then when, like, made fun of him, people showed up as clowns and said, "Oh, I'm not Clayton. Ooh, I dressed up like Clayton." Like, but in the guy's defense, we all know that all of those things are vetted by um
Right.
by their handlers, by what am I trying to say?
Production?
Production, thank you. Production. And also, let's go one further. It did happen. Like, they started filming, like, not less than a month, 2 weeks after that whole thing went down. So it's understandable that
Right.
while Gabby and Rachel had been living with it for like 3 months watching the show and they were over it and they were pissed and they were like, I want to be done with it now. We're both the Bachelorette. Let's move on. For the guys, they just saw this nonsense happen and the world was like, Clayton sucks.
Yeah,
And
totally.
so I get it. There's an interesting twist to that. I guess that Clayton came out recently. I didn't see it saying, but he went through depression after The Bachelor because of all of and had to go through counseling because of all of the negative people were pissed at him, right? And he went out about like cyberbullying, and he said something about cyberbullying the week before this came out. And so it's interesting because that all happened, and then they could have all said things about Clayton and they may have production could have decided not to show it in
Show
editing,
it. Yeah.
but they decided to make it a story about Clayton sucking. Like like it's interesting that he's here saying this and doing this, and this still the narrative that the show wants to give is this was a horrible lead, which is also interesting because usually they don't lampoon leads like that. They tanked
He
him like no business.
Well,
Nobody's
I gotta
business.
say, based off everything that like I was reading last year, he really seemed like kind of a tool. Like, and so I feel like it's one of those things where it's like
You don't mean a tool
maybe
as a person, but they used him as a tool, right? Or do you mean both?
I mean, he seemed like a tool as a person. So
Okay,
like
keep
I
going.
felt like they used him well, I think the production uses them as a tool. Everybody as a tool. Like so yes, but now yes to all of what you said, but to the one that I mean specifically, I feel like I feel like what it is. I'm going to be a little bit more descriptive. Tool is like just not descriptive; it's just being mean. What I feel like he was I feel like he was not ready. He was immature, and he really like. I think he should have been in therapy before he went to The Bachelor, so that he would have a way to like so that he would know how to engage with Susie, for example, or when she's like, like instead of yelling at her, having a conversation and saying, you know what, I feel very judged right now because blah blah
Mhm.
blah. Would you say this to a, I can see how you could have a really important conversation about judgment, sex before marriage. Like you could have so many different conversations in a different way, but like I feel like he was just, You know, like I didn't
I
feel him.
do.
I didn't enjoy him.
And you know what? That is on production. You know why? Because that season with Michelle, they decided to go ahead and choose someone who didn't make the final 4. Didn't even make the final 6. They chose
Mm-hmm.
him, and I think they wanted this like, "Oh, he looks like a all-American grass-fed like guy. Let's get him." And so they didn't choose someone who was further along in the process. And
Yep.
that
Yep.
actually makes a difference because being in that process more, you see more. Being on one of those like final 4 dates, like, or where you're traveling and it's just a few of you, seeing that and experiencing that, and that gives you a better, like, I agree with you, his emotional EQ is just not a thing. But that would have helped him more and be prepared and also
Yeah.
understand the narrative. See, because he was on for so little time, like just a few episodes, right? And as a
Yep.
result, he did not get to even understand or see how really when you're on a reality show, they are justifying the final pick.
Yeah.
They are justifying it, right? And so they've got to make it all make sense. And when he goes in there and he's like, "Oh yeah," and he probably had a great experience with his handlers. So he's just doing whatever they say. They're
Yep.
probably like, "Are you going to say you love her? You say you love her. Okay, I will." So he's like screaming for the rooftops, literally, "I love you." And he says it to 3 women. That is something that most leads do not do because they understand the enormity of it because they've made it to the finals before and
Yep.
they have been in that position where, yeah, maybe they wanted the lead to say I love you, but they realized, gosh, I didn't win. And had he or she told me that she loved me and then dumped me, that would not have been okay. So he was a total pawn because he didn't go any further. So that was on production. So then they were
Yep.
able to like, they got into this guy's head. They got him going. I love all 3 of you. Then Susie just happened to say, by the way, if you've slept with the others, I'm not going to, I can't continue with you. I can't do that. And he's like, wait, what? And the other thing is, let's be clear. They knew who his favorite was. They put her last on purpose. They knew this, and they
Yep.
probably already knew that she'd have a problem with all this. So they put her in this like, okay, you're seeing him, all these women come back, all disheveled and with the night with him, and now it's your turn. And he's all like, yeah, and
Yep.
realizes that he did like the cardinal sin with his relationship. So all of that, like, I think they totally were able. He was like Plato because he didn't go far enough and doesn't understand. So I just went on a raid,
No,
but
you
there you
know what?
go.
I love that perspective. And like when I hear that, what I was hearing is that that season was really just a shit show. Like there's so many things, like as you're
Total.
saying that, I'm like, okay, there are a list of things that were wrong with that season that made it not good. And Clayton has a lot of issues, but it's not like even somebody who's an idiot or a jerk or the worst person in the world, which I'm not saying he is, but even that person can still find themselves in a situation where the infrastructure just makes it so that they look worse. Everything is terrible. Like you can, and I don't know why, but I actually have, there's definitely something in my, it was The Biggest Loser, towards like, I used to watch that all the time. I loved that show. But then once I started to learn what was happening behind the scenes and how
Mhm.
people were treated and what was going on, what I started to see instead is you have a lot of people who are really suffering. You dump them in a space and then you abuse them and you torture them. And like, you're really just, I mean, you're creating great television, but it's a disaster. And I think now, I don't think it works as well, because
Mhm.
we have to, whoa, a butterfly. Sorry, butterfly just went flying around.
No, that's okay. You know, it's
Literally
funny.
that happened.
The phrase "biggest loser." You couldn't even make a show and call it "Biggest Loser" now. That would be so like inappropriate. Isn't that funny?
Oh my God. I remember watching that show and I used it as motivation to lose weight years and years ago and get healthy and whatnot. And like, I was really into it. And then I saw that episode with Rachel in it. Did you watch it ever?
Mm-mm.
There was this one episode. So, and everybody always came out looking fabulous. The final reveals were always wonderful.
I
Like
remember the final
all the
reveals.
way,
Yeah.
oh, seriously amazing. The one that made me realize I was never going to watch another episode again was my favorite contestant. Her name was Rachel. And she, just beautiful person inside and out, worked really hard. And she used to be an athlete, but had gained a ton of weight. Totally fine. She's beautiful, but she didn't like it. She wasn't happy. When she came for the final rose, she looked emaciated. And not the final rose, the final
I know. I
weigh
heard
in,
that, but I was
and
like,
when she came out, I remember I was like, oh my God. And they panned, it's live. So they panned to the stage and you saw Jillian Michaels go, oh my, right? Like everybody was like, oh my God, because she looked sick and she won. And like that was the moment where I was like, you know what? We need to find a better way of doing this. Like I'm not going like, and it's just, and so I think this is, I think Clayton, you have to have Clayton's episode like this so that you can learn the mistakes so that you don't make them again in the future. So you're like, you know what? This doesn't work. So like what you just described is like, is that going
Oh,
to work in the future?
I would they could do it again. That I don't think that The Bachelor has learned their lesson. I
Well,
just
maybe
I
we
would
as
just
human beings will learn.
yeah, hopefully the leads have learned like don't assume they have your best intentions
Yeah,
at heart. And honestly, they could have edited it. They could have edited last season to not make him look like such a chump. They could have. They
true.
had that choice. They opted to do it the way that they did. And um that's and they have also protect leads in the past. They opted not to protect
Yeah.
him for whatever reason, which is a little bit wild. Did I ever tell you I met him?
Clayton?
Yeah, I met Clayton. I met Clayton at the Rose Bowl, not intentionally, but I was at the what was it called? The tailgate. There's a special tailgate for the Rose Bowl, and I was there, and I was getting food, and these women were sitting there. I'm like, what are they? They're like, ah. I look up, and there's these women. They're like, oh, and so someone walked by and said, what are they looking at? I'm like, oh, that's The Bachelor. That's Clayton. And they're like, what? And so they're like, you got to get a picture with him. I'm like, I don't need to get a picture with him. I'm okay. No, you have to. Like these wife and a husband. I'm like, no. Just because I know who he is does not mean I need to get a picture with him. Like, you have to. And they shoved me. I'm not even kidding. Up there, I'm like, will you take a picture with her? I'm like, oh my gosh. Like
Oh my
literally,
gosh.
and it's when you're at Rose Bowl and you go to the parade and then you go to the actual like the game and everything in between, you're dressed in layers. I had a hat on that made me look like I was like lost. And I was just like, and I'm like maybe a foot and a half shorter than him. So it is the funniest picture. And I take this picture of him and I said to him, I'm like, hey, I remember what I said because the show, they always come to the Rose Bowl because the show's about to come out, right? And
Yeah.
so I said something to him and I was like, hope you're happy. Oh, and I said, because at this point, people were just giving him a hard time. We didn't know he was going to get a real hard
Right.
time. And I said, and he's like, yeah, I have a good sense of humor. It's all good. I'm like, okay, good. La, bye. So I met him and it's so funny because Scott was like, oh, you're off with The Bachelor. I'm like, are we just like, are we serious? Are we serious? That one picture, and so his daughter who watches The Bachelor was texting me and she's like, you met Clayton? And I was like, that was fast because Scott had to go work. So he wasn't there that day. He came up early and he left. And so it was so funny. So now he's like, he's like, you were goo goo eyes for him. I'm like, look at the picture. It was a smile. There was no goo goo eyes. Like, what are you talking about? Men are
I
ridiculous.
can see why. Here's the thing. If I was him, I would never let you live this down. I would bring it up like every time The Bachelor's on, every time somebody
Every
says the name
time.
Clayton. Yep,
Every
yep.
time. He does it
Good. Nice
every
job, Scott. I'm
time.
with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Every
Yes.
time. I'm like, listen, mister. So
That's how it's done, dude.
ridiculous.
This is
Ridiculous.
why
But
you don't take pictures with celebrities because no one will ever let you live it down.
I mean, I was shoved. I was a forceful picture, but okay, yeah,
It's
I
of course
guess
like here,
so.
shove.
I was like, I really don't need a picture with this guy. Like, I'm good, people. They must have thought that I was like 20 years my younger and I cared, but I didn't. So anyhow, but he was nice to everyone. I will say because I saw him a few times. He sat like in the row behind me at the game. No joke, true story. And people were coming during the game the whole time, wanting pictures of them talk, and he was nice to everyone. Probably because he knew people were going to hate him here pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Also, he could also be a really nice guy. Like, I want
I
to
think
ask you a
he's a nice
question.
guy.
Actually,
Yeah,
is
talk to
this
me.
because you were on a reality show, right? So,
I
like, you
was.
were on The Apprentice years and years ago, and so you know what you're like when you're telling me about the kind of experience. Like, you're not just saying it as like somebody who read or whatever. You've lived it. So, I'm curious to
Mhm.
know, like, in your season of The Apprentice, how did you feel like wait, did you feel like when they were like how did you feel about your editing? I'm curious about that.
I always say there's like three different shows going on. There's your experience, there's what you see on TV, and then there's like the body of what everybody else sees on TV. Because even when you're watching it, you see it differently because you know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like these three different experiences going on. How did I feel overall? I do believe that The Apprentice is one of the most upstanding um, reality shows because there's shows that'll be like, Manissa, Roxanne said you're a horrible person. What do you think about that? Go. And The Apprentice
Right.
never, that their whole thing was, we're never going to tell you what anyone else says or does. So
Hmm.
they kept that integrity. But I also think they didn't need to because you have type A personalities vying for to be like on a like win to be the apprentice, right? And so we're already competitive. You put us all to live together. We're on very little sleep. It's going to happen, right? So I think they realized that. And so it was very much in that regard. I will say, I watched it again when I say that everything that I said and did happened. Absolutely. Um, do I think that they could have shown some things that made it more clear why I felt the way I did on certain things? Absolutely. But
Hmm.
they were telling a story. It's entertainment, right? We have to remember that.
Yeah.
It did happen. What I experienced happened, but then you've got they're telling a story and it's also entertainment. So I wasn't mad at anything they did. They did do there were some things that were definitely changed. I'm like, oh, it didn't happen that way. Or oh, okay. Like it, but it didn't change the integrity of you might not have liked me as much, but I didn't win. I made the final four and then I got fired. Two of us got fired together. So you were supposed to not like me by the
Yeah.
end because I didn't win. So I totally, and I could see the trajectory of that changing how that went. And so, but it's a story. So I was good with it.
It's really, it's really interesting because, like, I think a lot of times people are writing stories with what's in their mind, right? But like what the editors are doing, and this is something so interesting that I started to think about when I was thinking about What We Do in the Shadows, which was a movie done with Taika Waititi, which is it's a documentary about vampires. It's hysterical. If you haven't watched it, I recommend. It's on Hulu, but it's all basically documentary. And I think to myself, you have all of this footage, and you have to figure out what kind of story you're going to write, like what's not right even, like you're not writing it, you're editing it together, because now you're basically saying, I'm going to pick this, I'm going to pick this, I'm going to pick this. And the truth is, because I'm an editor and I've edited a lot of videos, you can literally edit a video to look like whatever the fuck you want on, like, if you have enough
Fact.
footage, you can create any story you want simply by piecing things together, especially if you have like with those rooms that they have, the what do they call, the confessional rooms,
Uh
right,
huh.
where
Oh,
people
yeah.
sit there. You can't tell when somebody is actually doing that, right? So they could at any point in time have filmed something and put it back when you didn't even know a piece of information or something like that. And so I feel like that's just an important thing to recognize, is that it's a narrative, just like a movie, just like anything
Right.
else that they're trying to put
Right.
together.
Yes, and I will say again, I thought that The Apprentice was very on the up and up. So like we would do our they would grab us during the show, right? And because we're like, and yes, we after each episode, you'd have this. You'd go and you'd be interviewed for hours, where you'd have to go like and tell the story and answer questions from the moment that's like the moment they last talked to you, really, all the way to where you are right now. So we had to do that after every episode, and so, but they were good about like if I said something in week 5, they didn't pull it out and put it in week 2 or 1 or
Okay,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah, they didn't, and they didn't do any Frankenbiting, but some, as they call it, right?
What's it
But
that's called? What's it called?
Frankenbite.
And
Did you
what
know
does
about
that?
Frankenstein is like put together? So
Yeah.
there are some reality shows where they'll
Yeah, where
literally,
they'll like,
yeah,
okay.
and I can actually tell when it's done. I think yeah, I can tell. No, but like, um, so arrogant of me. Sorry, but
No, it's
like
badass, it's a skill.
Scott loves it because I can tell who's going to win something, and I can tell
Nice.
who's not, and I can tell like the music just switched there. Do you see what's happening? So now he's like, oh, the music switch, something is going to happen. But I can also, that if like let's say we're on TV right now, we're talking, right, and then all of a sudden they show the back of me while I'm talking, that
Yeah.
means you don't know if I've actually said what I'm saying. So if I'm talking to you and then I turn around and I'm still talking to you, I could say anything right there. They could put
Yeah.
anything there because you're not actually seeing my lips moving. And
Yeah.
so when you see moments like that, know that perhaps that's not what the person actually said. That might be something that they grabbed in a different
From
spot.
some that might that's a that could
It
that's
could
a
be a
way, because
Frankenbite.
like
Yep.
in editing, that's a really easy way to hide that, because you can grab
100%.
sound bite from somewhere else, normalize the sound, and it just sounds like it happened at the exact same time.
Yes. And
Yeah.
Frankenbiting is so interesting where it's even like I might say a sentence like, "Hi, my name is Roxanne Wilson. What's your name?" And they can take Roxanne, what's your and put them together in different orders. Like they'll
Right.
take words. Yeah, the Frankenbiting like for some it goes like they go too far. But I think also when you sign up for a reality show, that you are signing up and you're giving them rights to do whatever you want to do. So
Yeah,
I do
with
see
that.
like me as I was a character, right? On the show is what
Yeah.
when I see it, I'm like, that's me, the character. What was frustrating is friends that would be like, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, I can't believe you're judging me on something you saw on TV. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
that was frustrating. But then you really learn when you're on a reality show who your real friends are.
I was gonna
You
say,
learn
did you learn who your
fast.
real friends were?
Oh, yes. And realize this was before Instagram and Facebook were a big thing. Twitter wasn't even a big thing. I don't even think this wasn't the world of like we're tweeting shows and
Yeah.
stuff. So I got in like before that. I cannot imagine. It was the world of chat rooms. And one of my dearest friends, my brother, Daniel, he would admonish me because the day after the show was on Sundays, it was Sundays or Mondays, one of those. The next day, I would be, or that night, I'd be looking at all the chat rooms, seeing what they say. And it's like,
Ugh,
it's great when they're saying good
don't.
things,
Oh
but
yeah.
when they don't say good things, it is so pain. And people are like, oh, I knew her from such. I'm like, who are you? I don't know you. And she does. I'm like, you don't know anything about me. Or people would just be like, I don't like her. And it would hurt me to my core. And he'd be like,
Oh,
Roxanne,
dude.
stay away from the chat rooms. He told me that
Yeah.
from the beginning. He's like, stay away. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And they
Again,
told
stay out
us
of chat
to,
rooms, dude. Always. It's just
right.
general life
But
lessons. Life rules are always
that would
good.
be
Stay
like
out of chat
staying
rooms.
away from like social media right now, right? It's don't read it. And they told us
It's
that as well too.
addictive.
But
You can't help
you
yourself.
gotta
Yeah.
know. You want to know what people are
Oh,
thinking and saying.
absolutely.
Of
It's like looking
course.
at, when you drive down the road and you see the car accident, you don't want to look because you're like, oh my God, the terrible thing. But at the same time, you can't help yourself.
Rubbernecking, you have to, yeah, you're
It's the
totally.
worst.
And so when it's about you, of course, you're like, oh, they're like, okay, they like me. And then they don't, they
They
turn
do.
on
Oh,
you.
I've had both. I've had people say that, and then you're suddenly like, oh my God.
Yeah. So it's like you can't believe your own hype, which means if you don't believe your own hype, you also won't believe the bad things either. You've
Yeah.
got to keep it like this. And really the best way to do that is just not watch or not look at it at all.
Yeah, I'm with that, dude. I feel like I got such an insight today into
That
like
was
your. So
random.
you know what? We talked about all the like we were gonna. We had like this list of things, but I got to tell you, this was I loved this conversation. I feel like we really just need one topic because you and I can just start and then like
You
just
say
take
that
it
every
forever.
time.
Do
Every
I
time.
really? I do
Yeah,
say that
every
every
time
time.
you say, we
I
just
do.
need one topic. We just need one topic. Every
Yeah,
time you
just
say
and I
that.
keep saying it. Maybe you know what? Maybe when we meet for our launch, our big launch that we're doing in August, we'll be like, you'll be like, how many topics? I'll be like, one topic,
One topic.
one topic.
I'll be like, a wise woman has told me repeatedly.
So wise.
One topic.
I
So
believe my
wise.
own hype. I am so wise right now, like
You
beyond.
should
I
believe
know.
your own. You can believe your own hype. You're allowed to. Where are you off to? Tell us where you're going.
Okay, so right now, oh, you mean for vacation?
Yeah, because you're leaving next
Oh,
week, aren't
sorry.
you?
My sister's actually going to be here any minute. So I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. My sister's coming here. So I wasn't sure if you were. Yes, I'm going to Anna Maria Island. It is a place Alex and I go every year. We've been going since the year we met. We got married there, did our honeymoon there. We go
Oh,
there at the same time every year, same place. Last year the red tide was there, so it was a little bit not as much fun because we couldn't go in the water. But this year I'm super excited. I'm not taking my laptop. I'm not doing any work. I'm shutting down. I'm reading a book right now called "There's No Such Thing as Laziness," and it's helping me to reprogram my relationship with productivity and the word lazy. And I'm really
love
enjoying it.
that.
And so I am going to spend this entire 2 weeks not doing anything, but by no means does that make me lazy. I'm just going to be relaxing.
So, as a manifester, one of the things, our trigger words is when people call human design. For those of you who are like, what's she talking about? Is lazy because we don't need to be doing things all of the time. And so when we're
Mm-hmm.
not doing things, people are like, oh, you're lazy. So I need that book. Is it an
I'll
auto
send you. Yeah, it's. I'm listening to it on Audible. I'll send you the name because I think I may
sweet?
have messed the name up because it's on the thingy. But I'll send. Hold on. Actually, you know what? It's on. Let me put it here so that everybody who wants to, because I know more people will want to.
That'd be
It's
great.
called Laziness Does Not Exist. Laziness Does Not Exist. It's by Devin Price, and the cover is like a yellow orange stripes. So it's
Awesome.
really I've two chapters changed my life. It's seriously you're gonna read it and you're gonna think to yourself, holy shit, I am way more programmed than I actually thought. And you're going to love yourself and have so much more compassion for yourself within the first chapter. Like I just hugged myself all morning today. It was
Oh,
crazy.
so I'm really excited about that because, well, I'll be honest, I have a lot of Audible book. Like I've had Audible for 2 years. 2021 was the year as I was going to read a book every month. Didn't. I was like, your membership, your credits are expiring. I'm like, dang it, I need to get another book. So I've got one I think is expiring in a few days. So this is perfect. I'll get that. I've got so many. But I'm excited because I'm gonna do a puzzle because I'm back home
Nice.
again. Did I tell
Oh,
you I'm
what
in a
fun.
puzzle club? I'm in a puzzle
Dude,
club.
I love puzzles. I haven't done one in years, but I love them.
Send me your address. I will send because I get them once a month, and then I'm like, what am I going to do with you, puzzle? Because I can't keep you all. So send me your address, and I'll send you a puzzle.
You're amazing. Oh my God, that reminds me. I had a package I was going to send you, and it hasn't been sent. And I need to take care of that shit. I'll do it.
We'll do that. We'll make that happen.
I have
I literally
a
have 3
package for my
puzzles done.
I have a
Bye.
package for my brother-in-law that I've been sitting in my car for 2 years that I keep meaning to take to the post office. I actually flew to Austin to see him, meant to take it, still sitting in the car.
Okay,
So,
so I'm never going to see this package. Is what you just told me.
I swear to God, I'm going to send you this package. You are going to get this package. I swear, this is like my life's mission right now, is to make sure you get the package.
Can I tell you one? I know we've gone long, but can I tell you one other thing?
No,
Did you?
of
Okay,
course.
because you and I have a network marketing background, and we don't talk about it on here, but I have to tell you, I found out about another network marketing program that I didn't even know existed. Do you know that this is with reality TV? Actually, do you know that Candy Burgess from Atlanta Housewives? She's also
Yeah.
like a producer and all the things. She has a network marketing company called Candy something, which is like makeup and sex toys. We had to talk about sex at least once here
Oh
on
my
Candy.
God, you're
And sex
kidding.
toys. I promise you, and I would send you this link because at their last convention pre-COVID, they had Bolero, a male dancer, come out as one of their performers at convention, and he
That's
did
amazing.
a dance. And I was like,
That's
Melissa needs to
amazing.
know this. Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say, if I was ever going to join another MLM, it would be a sex toy MLM. But here's the thing, and I'm just going to leave you with this: it's the sex toy MLMs are just not hardcore enough for me. Like the stuff breaks in like 2 seconds. It's like I need really hardcore shit. So like, yeah, I'm going to leave you with that.
Why do you always leave me with my jaw like just
Well, you got
dropped?
to sing today. I think they missed you singing. You were singing. No, we were
I
singing Paula
did.
Cole earlier.
Yeah. I don't want to wait for our lives to be over. I want
We were going back
the
to our
way it
90s. Yeah.
should be. Do 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 do. Yeah, we were.
Do-do-do-do-do. It's
Okay,
what was that? That was
so
Dawson's Creek, right? Okay,
it
so
was
next
Dawson's
week,
Creek.
Dawson's Creek. Okay, so next week it's going to be you. The week after it's going to be
Me,
you, and then I'll be
me.
back.
Then we'll be back and we're gonna
And I'll
like
be back.
launch something fantastic. So be ready, y'all. I'm gonna send you Candy so you can see if she's hardcore enough for you.
Fabulous. And I'm going to send you your package. Send
That
me your.
has connotations now, but that's okay.
Dude, now you're like,
Okay.
now I'm like, well, I mean, okay, don't get me started. Don't get me
We're gonna
started.
go now. I think
Okay,
that the
we're going to
weight
go.
pod's coming on because I don't know where she's going, y'all, but it's not
Where I'm
good.
going, I'm thinking to myself, listen, I got to send her some packages.
Weight bot, that music is horrible right now.
This is really, I know,
If
I feel like we needed something a little bit more dancey and
I
groovy for this
if I
moment.
kick him off and put him back on, do you think he'll get better? Let's try this.
I hope so. Like something a little bit more groovy that goes with the sex toys.
There we
Yeah,
go.
this is a sex toy song. Yeah. Oh shit! I think my sister's here and she's brought her kids, so I'm gonna go and no longer talk about sex toys.
Bye everyone. We'll see